enjoy yourself in Santa Cruz is really nice.
Sure is. It's just epic here. They've got great farmers markets and
Yes.
the beach. Went down to the beach, went swimming,
Wow.
hiking, walking.
You
Epic.
went swimming in the ocean without a wetsuit.
I was the only one,
Right. You are the only one.
but I'm just that way, nature doesn't bother me a bit. Cold, hot,
Really?
I love it all. Yeah.
So you can go right in the ocean without doing special breathing exercises?
I mean, you're breathing, but I do the cold dips and stuff that are absolutely near freezing. So the ocean really here isn't that cold.
So where do you do near dips freezing?
Well, I was at Harbin. They've got an ice bath there. And then when I was in LA, my friend has an ice bath freezer.
Okay.
You turn the freezer on with water in it.
Yes.
And that's one of the best ways to do it.
Oh, I've been doing Wim Hof. I did him personally last year in LA. Have you ever worked with Wim Hof directly?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah. Have you watched his videos and what he's doing?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
Breathing.
Yes. It's all about breathing. Everything's breathing. The older I get, the more I realize there's nothing more powerful than breath. Nothing more powerful than breath. So I teach Qigong, I teach yoga, and I teach breathing, but the more breathing I do, the more I realize like how powerful this is. So you can go into the ocean just through a breathing exercise and feel comfortable.
I think so. I mean, for me, it's even beyond that. It's just sort of just going beyond the resistance or the sensation.
Oh.
And I've done that in all different types of, hostile or extreme conditions and environments. And the breath work also as well, like you get to a point where you're breathing and you want to take another breath. But if you just wait a little bit more, then it actually can go further and further. And then pretty soon you get into sort of a suspended animation state. Mm-hmm. And I did some breathing exercises with somebody actually who did training with Wim Hof.
Okay.
And I noticed that myself, that I could, hold my breath. And when I was just about felt like I was going to choke, I just would wait another second, 2, 3, and then there would be this kind of this threshold that you would cross over. And then that desperation actually turned into, another 30 seconds or a minute of being able to hold, So I just kind of like yogi stuff, that goes way back, and these guys can hold their breath for 6 months,
Yeah, the guy who holds the world record right now is Stig Syverson, and he held his breath 22 minutes underwater.
Wow.
22 minutes.
That's pretty dang good.
Yes, Stig, you can Google him, S-T-I-G, Syverson. He teaches classes too. But I'm really grateful that there's so many people right now teaching breathing at all different levels.
Yeah, we're going to need it. Now we've got to work on the air quality that we've got, which for some people is far better than others. I feel like the city life is not for me for that regard, especially those real urban centers like New York, where I lived for a couple of years, in Brooklyn and California. And that was after being introduced to Hilton Hotima's work, who would mention, everyone talks about food. Some people talk about water, and nobody talks about the most important one of all, where we're either living and purifying our blood with every breath, or we're, toxifying ourselves. And that goes all the way back to the Essenes 2,000 years ago, leaving the city centers to get out of the polluted air there, which was fires and industry back then. Now imagine the industry and the pollutants that are even far more subtle. That it wasn't like a smoke or the blacksmithy or the cooking of the food and stuff that was creating some of those air particles. And nowadays, you got with all the cars and the industry and the off-gassing of all different types of industrial and technological parts of society, you got to really be paying attention to, like, you know, the tree, getting to where the, you know, being where trees are, where it's blowing everything out and, you know, coming through the trees and then coming into your lungs after going through a process of nature, as opposed to going through a process of just this industrial environments, where if you have that awareness, you can see that with every breath you're breathing in microparticulate. And I mean, I got so sensitive because of the introduction of Hilton Hotima's work, read his books over and over and over again, and became, you know, like, for living as this physical organism, like, aside from diets and getting enough sleep, it's like, what kind of air am I breathing? So for me, when it comes to where do you want to live, what do you want to do with your life, it is most definitely, I want to be where there is the most amount of fresh air that I can access the most amount of time.
Yeah, when we come to the facts, you know, when we really face facts, we realize that the trees are our lungs. The forests really represent the other half of our lungs. So they're producing oxygen, we're producing carbon dioxide. So when we start seeing the reciprocal maintenance that nature has and that humanity has, and that we're stepping away from nature. So the fact is, we just need to, like, take a look at common sense and realize, like, the most powerful food on earth, and I ask all my students, what's the number one most powerful food on earth? And they go, they're like bananas, avocados, broccoli. And then I finally, you know, after a while say, okay, it's oxygen. So the air we breathe is the first food that's maintaining our life here. And the second would be water. And that's what we talked about with eating fruit, is it contains the highest degree of water, the most highest quality, because it's already processed all of the nutrients. And so when we actually eat fruit, we're getting the best quality water in the world. But when we realize that we're burning down the Amazon forest today as we speak, so that corporations can actually grow something down there, we're actually cutting out the lungs of planet Earth. So where's the common sense to this? And then where we live, we have a choice. But where the people are trapped, they have no choice. They're just stuck there. So if they're in big cities, well, it's because that's their choice, no matter what. I lived in Manhattan for 10 years, but that was back in the 60s, and the quality of air was really decent then. But I wouldn't live in a big city today for anything. I live right on the water's edge like you in Central California. You're out in Hawaii. So we choose to live where the air quality is really good. The farmers markets are excellent. The water quality is high. So our health is our wealth. It's the most important thing. If we don't have our health, then we can forget wealth. We have to have happiness, and we have to have time. And those four things equate to the thumb, which is divine, which is the mystery and magic of why we're here, what we're doing here, and where we're going. So we have to leave this planet in much better condition than as we found it for the next generation. So if the air quality is on its way out and the water quality is getting worse, and food is so processed, that's what you teach, Dan, which is so blessed to get people educated, to make them realize, to make everyone realize that we are what we eat. We are what we breathe. We are what we drink. So we start from that equation, then we go into our happiness. You know, really, that's a quality of life. Then we go into our wealth. Well, that's part of it. We need to food, clothing, and shelter. Then we go into time. So here at Morrocco Method, I allow all of my employees, starting with myself, time. So there's no stress, there's no pressure, and there's no deadlines. I don't believe in deadlines for any reason. Never, never have, never will. And we need to have time where we can just have that meditative space to allow the brain and our whole inner being, that spiritual self, to relax and to rejuvenate. And I teach going to bed at night. You go to bed at night to sleep. You don't go to bed just basically because you're going to toss and turn or read a book or watch your telephone, for God's sakes. You're not going to doing this in bed. Don't do that. Don't watch TV in bed. You need to get everything ready. When you're ready to go to bed, you go in, you do a breathing exercise, boom, you're out like a light, and your whole body needs to rejuve itself. Same as our mind, same as our thoughts, the same as all of our feelings. They need to settle down. So when we come to the most basic equation of air and breathing and trees and forests, for God's sakes, can everybody just use their common sense? So we have problems, we just need to solve them. We don't need to create more problems. We don't need to create more widgets. We need to basically solve problems so we can live on this planet in harmony with everything. We're destroying all life on Earth. So where is the intelligence there?
Not so much. Wondering where all that comes from, but I know that the media has a big part to play in it. And then some kind of avoidance, like an agenda to actually keep people from becoming aware or educated of the facts that are taking place in medicine, in ecology, economy, and all the industries, you know? And so we are just, I think, being misled, basically, and deceived. And I think, and that's not, I don't think that's anything new. I think the king was deceiving the peasants, and the emperor was deceiving the kings, and deception has been part of the dark side. Bringing everything to light is the answer for people like us who are educators. And I think what ends up happening is that you come back to concepts and principles that are so simple that after a lifetime of complication, people can't even believe it. And the truth is so simple. You know, like the highest, most absolute truth is simplicity that even transcends, you know, any kind of manifestation at all. And that's when you're talking about going back to the truest spiritual sense. I think that's the answer there. And if we can rise up and stay connected to the highest, and that kind of harmonizes the mind almost instantly, and then the mind can make good decisions on how to care for the physical frame and how to understand the laws of cause and effect. So if you are deceptive, you know, or greedy, you can see how those things are going to actually work against you, even though in the short term, you might think you're making some gains. But the wisdom will show you that, you know, greed, deception, jealousy, anger, those types of things are eventually just going to, well, instantaneously, it's like instant karma is going to get you, you know, instantaneously, those thoughts have a negative effect on the energy field. So at this time, you know, I'm teaching still nutrition, but really once you get tapped into the highest that you're capable of, then the rest of the system becomes harmonized. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're able to be so healthy and sharp at your age, when I'm pretty sure most of the people that you know that are your age are on a few drugs, limping around, have dementia, Alzheimer's, can't remember their last name or where they put their keys. Am I right?
Yeah, so it's not like when you forget where you put your keys. Alzheimer means when you don't know what your keys are for. So that's really what we're there. You know, society has reached that level of Alzheimer's, and none of that really is necessary. So for me, I'm 76. I have a company that I basically, an anti-cancer, I have all natural products at Morrocco method. But basically what I'm looking at is our health is our wealth. So when we come to realize really what's going on here, like you talked about the truth, well, I basically have come to understand that the truth is the truth and there's no other truth. So that's what we're saying earlier in this conversation, is that we have to look at facts. The facts are really what is reality. But it's not what I like, what I don't like. It's not my opinion. And you brought about the media. Everyone's now talking about the media. And when this, I'm 76, so these things didn't exist when I was in my 40s. They didn't exist at all. But now I'm coming to understand, like everybody else, that transparency is why this exists. This exists because we are so overpopulated. When I was basically back in the 1970s, there was a book by Rudolf Steiner called Life on a Small Planet. And he basically said in 1976 that nature could not. He didn't say it wouldn't. He said nature, and he scientifically proved it, could not support 6 billion people. So today we're over 8 billion, which is shocking. But it's even more shocking when I come to see the fact that the American footprint equals 5 people in Asia, for example. So we're 300 million. So you times that by 5. So we're 1.5 billion on the footprint of planet Earth, which is now 9.5 billion. Then if you go to Europe, let's say their footprint is 3 times. So I say we're clearly using more than 10 billion people on this planet today, where nature cannot maintain or sustain more than 6 billion. So what does that mean? It means that we're not using common sense. We have all these professors, all these scientists, all these, whatever you want to call them, intelligent people that are not making the bullseye. We're shooting here and there, but we're missing the mark. And things are getting out of control. So for me at 76, I'm an example. And I tell everybody, I have no drugs, no medications, no supplements, no doctors, and no pain. 76, no pain. And of course, for me, that's a normal life. But everyone that comes to me, they're in their 20s, their 40s, their 60s, they have all kind of pains. They're on all kind of medications. Well, we have to maintain ourselves, first of all. If we're going to maintain the planet Earth, we have to start with ourselves and end with ourselves. And the truth is the truth, and there's no other truth. So when you point your finger at anybody or anything, what's this? This is the thumb pointing back at us, right? So there's health, wealth, happiness, time, and divine. The thumb represents mystery and magic. No one ever has and never will understand the creation of the universe. We can do this and do that. We can fly to the moon or the Mars, but that's never going to get us into the understanding of the whole creation. So when we do this, baby, we have to come back to ourselves. That's what it's saying. Always come back to yourself. Our health is our wealth. And that's why I admire the work that you're doing, Dan, and you're still doing this at the highest levels. And you're talking about not only food that we eat, but the impressions that we receive. That's food. The feelings that we're getting in, that's food. The relationships that we're having, the business situations that are going on. These are all elements of food. So when we start realizing that we're taking in and eating all this stuff, like I do hair care, for example. So I teach everyone that when you put shampoo or conditioner or styling products or bleach or dye or whatever you're doing into your dental care, your skin care, your hair care, that we're ingesting 70%. So when you put face cream on, you're taking in 70% is going into your bloodstream, and it's going to settle down into the organs. So that's why I've created Morrocco Method International. So it's 100% botanical. It's all plant-based. So when people are using, read your ingredients, for God's sake. You talk about being responsible. There's where the responsibility lies. You really want to start checking out, well, what am I eating? What's the ingredients on these products that I'm putting on? Oh, it's only going on my skin. It's only going to go on my hair. I'm going to wash it out. No, you're ingesting 70%. This is food. So that's where our responsibility lies. Mind, body. And what you're talking about, Dan, is the higher mind, the higher consciousness, the spiritual, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. But it's the truth is the truth, and there's no other truth. So when you start getting clear, which you are, you start getting balanced, which you've achieved, and you're teaching this to all of your audience, and more people are coming because you're an example. You walk your walk and you talk your talk. People are going to start going, oh, all right, so I don't understand, but let me listen to Dan, the man, and let me find out how I can start taking in real impressions, healthy impressions. So we need to basically take care of planet Earth. That's what we're doing here. Why are we here? What are we doing here? And what's going to happen when we leave? These are the three biggest questions for me that are more important than everything.
Oh, thanks, Anthony. That was epic. So, man, I had like a million questions pop up, and then I just went blank.
All right, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to go into like what I'm doing at Morrocco method. So for example, this is our old packaging, and this is plastic. I'm not really sure what kind of plastic it is, but the thing to do is we need to have one kind of plastic. So there's like, I don't know, I'm not sure. There's like 36 or 46 different types of plastics. So for us to maintain the planet, we need to have one plastic, only one type of plastic, where we say everyone only can use PET 36. And then if we did that, then all the plastic on planet Earth would get recycled at PET 36, and we wouldn't have to have 46 and 12 and 18 and 4. So in the meantime, we have to like create laws that say you only can use one type of plastic that can be recycled, because people can't separate this and recycle it. It's not possible. That's a fact. The other thing is we're moving into compostable packaging. So this is the old packaging, and I've called up the manufacturers and I demanded that they produce compostable envelopes, for example. So when we put powder into our packaging, all of our powders, all of our products, so by demanding, you just simply go to whoever your vendors are, and we're the consumers, for God's sakes, we pay them. They've come up with this. So this is 100% compostable. It's not biodegradable, which is nonsense. It's going to take 2 to 5 years for biodegradable to sort of break down. Where this is paper. And what you do with this, the whole thing, everything, you just take the whole thing, throw it into the earth, and in 5 to 7 days, it's soil. That's compostable. And we're doing the same thing. So I've created a shampoo bar. So this is literally a bar, and the whole packaging is compostable, 100%. And now we've created a conditioner bar, citrus silk conditioner, and this is 100% compostable. So there's no more plastic. We're slowly, leading the example of what it takes and what it will take for the planet to heal itself. But wherever you are, whatever you're doing, right, Dan? Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we basically have to, like I'm in hair care. Morrocco Method International is over 50 years old. And I'm still doing my passion because I'm anti-cancer. That's right. I'm anti all this destruction. I've been like that forever. So the new compostable packaging is very exciting. Throw it in the soil, you get soil back. That's what's going to happen to us. When I'm done, like everybody else, we're going to get put back into the earth and recycle the physical part of nature. So this is the most important part of what's going on. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, take into consideration, use this, which was given to us for a reason. Thought is only there to solve problems. It's not there for any other reason. Unfortunately, we're using thought for everything, which is causing a lot of problems. But if we use thought just to solve problems, and when we didn't have a problem, we can let it rest. We can let this rest, which it needs silence, it needs space, it needs its own meditative space, so we can not have stress. We're stressing ourselves. We're doing terrible things to humanity. We're doing terrible things to nature and the planet. We're, I say, easily over 10 billion people. So that's a problem that we need to solve. And we need to use common sense. The same thing like plastic. All we have to do is just say, look, everyone demand from our vendors that they use one type of PET plastic that can be recycled. And here at Morrocco Method, we're basically demanding from our vendors compostable packaging, and they're creating it and coming up with it. So the truth is the truth, and there's no other truth. Dan, we have to get this message out.
Well, so that's really cool. I mean, I'm glad that I can just sit here and hold space, because I'm really glad to hear what's going on. I think 6 months ago, one of your representatives sent me a couple of the shampoo bars. So I've got a couple questions for you. And by the way, I love it. So for whoever's watching, the shampoo bar, of course, just Morrocco Method. Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, I'll start with this. I was thinking of this today based on, just our short talk yesterday, and how I've chosen to, represented, the companies or the products that I've represented have they do have to do with the products, but the products are a byproduct of the people. So I've had 1,000 inquiries in the last 11 to sell all kinds of stuff. And I've only gone with just a few companies. And the reason is, and I reiterated this to myself yesterday after we talked, the reason why I choose Morrocco Method, Pyridime, Health Ranger, and Kauai Pharmacy and Our Botanicals, those are like the 5 companies that I represent, after hundreds and thousands of inquiries, is because of the people. So it starts with, like, my buddy Lou Corona starts an enzyme company. It's like, it's him that I love first and foremost. It's the person. It's you, Anthony, that has been so supportive of my work in so many different ways. And your products are just a reflection of who you are. And I just love the Morrocco Method stuff. And I love the shampoo bars. So my question is, and I just got the conditioning bar too right before I left. And I only had a chance to use it a few times. But the shampoo bar, what I'm curious about is, will you be having all of the different formulas in the shampoo bars, or are you just going to stick with Earth shampoo bar?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So right now we're just, we're basically going into the future. So basically I'm really excited that we can actually start doing compostable packaging. That's the beginning of it. We're basically starting to do compostable 100% shampoo bar, but we're not going to go into the 5 flavors. We're leaving that there where they are, because that's where we are right now. It's been 50 years of an evolution, and the same thing with 5 shampoos, 5 conditioners, 5 styling products, but everything is little by little. So what I teach is that everything has to happen daily. You have to do it daily over a period of a week, then weekly over a period of months. So if we do too much too fast, the whole thing falls apart and breaks down. But if we really commit ourselves to whatever our passion is, like the environment, planet Earth, our health is our wealth, for God's sakes. It's little by little. So to answer your question, Dan, yeah, it's been a big leap of faith. We finally done it. This has been done in the Mediterranean thousands and thousands of years ago. We're doing the same techniques as my ancestors did in Italy. I've been watching some videos for the last couple of years on how they actually produced soap bars, how it was done, how it's been seasoned, how they cured it, and all this other interesting stuff. And so we slowly have copied those techniques into my formulas, and we only have 1 shampoo for now, which is Earth, and then the other 5 will stay where they are. But over a period of time, when plastic, like we're demanding that we can't take this into the shower. We can't, the plastic bottles can go into the shower. So that's another dilemma that we have for a while. But once we figure out how to compostably package all of this stuff, then we will slowly shift over to the other elements. And that's what we are. We are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So right now we're starting at the very first one, earth. And this is very exciting. If the conditioner is earth, the shampoo is earth. So yeah, to answer your question, we're basically light years ahead of ourselves, but we're steady at the helm, and we will continue to do whatever it takes to be environmentally correct as possible.
That's cool. Well, I'm just, I just love all 5 elements. And so like I told you yesterday, I've decided to just stretch it out, and use a little bit less. So instead of ordering twice a year, I only order once a year, which I know for your business might not be the most beautiful thing, but that's why I really love the compostable packaging. Because the truth is I love it when my clients, friends, family members come over. I encourage them to use the Morrocco method products during the retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had every single person really, really loves it. The internet is one thing and people's opinions, but in my life, the example is that I've handed thousands of people enzymes and no one has ever said no. I've had, 100 people or more come to my house because I do these, I do massage, clean up, spa days for people, green juice, massage, Morocco method. And, and everyone is like, oh my God, my hair, and I show them how to use it, and I use it. Morocco method is so versatile. It's more than a shampoo. It's more than it's a fun thing to use. And you're doing something good for yourself. So the shampoo I just love for what it does, because really at the end of the day, if you are aware of the subtleties, the shampoo that you make is actually a shift in consciousness. I love to use the Morocco method 5-element shampoos, and I have a real intuitive relationship. I mean, they just sit right there, at the back of my shower, and I just intuitively use it. And I'll use like the earth, particularly for a face mask, and if my hair is greasy, I'll use the apple cider vinegar, in the, is that the fire?
Yes.
Yeah, the apple cider vinegar fire. I know that one, really gets my hair super clean. That's my daughter's favorite. And I remember you saying that the pine shale, or that your favorite would change. But I got to tell you, since day one and this day now, still my favorite is still pine shale for whatever it's worth. I kind of nurse that one, and I don't really share that one as much when people come over. But I've had a lot of people have real profound, and then they'll come out of the shower or something. Just even my last client, I encouraged him. He came for a week retreat, and I said, hey, use this stuff, and he was an older guy, and his hair, he wasn't caring for his hair that much. And I said, use this shampoos and use this conditioner, saturate it, scrub it into your scalp. And, then he came out of the shower and he's like, whoa, man, he felt just rejuvenated, his hair, after just the first time, so I just love Morocco method stuff. I mean, I'm a great salesman for it. And I encourage everyone. I think we made a deal. I mean, I might as well mention it now for those who are watching. We set up a special yesterday, 15% off. All you got to do, there's a link down below for all the Morocco method stuff. And then you can get 15% off with the Dan the Man code. And I'm gonna utilize that now because I'm ready to reorder, because I've been nursing my bottles. I don't want to run out, but again, I'm just like you and everyone else, trying to use less. I really am, and I'm trying to use less plastic for my vegetables and find other ways to just transport them. And I do reuse my bags a lot more until they just turn into slime, and I wash the bags and dry them. So I'm and my awareness is changing and getting better and better over the years. And that's one thing with the Morocco method, not only, my own personal finances, as well as, just the environment. And then of course, you take the bottles down to the recycling, which thankfully on Kauai, everything is free. The dump is free. And it's not like that everywhere else, but that's why Kauai is so clean, because they have free recycling, free trash, free green waste, and all you got to do is get it there. And so I got to get my stacks of stuff, run it in there. It's really cool environment. And there's some places that are better than others that have better recycling programs. Thankfully, we have a really great one. And then, of course, if we all recycle, I think they're learning how to do really good stuff, though, with the recyclable materials. They're building, they've got building materials for third world countries and stuff. They're taking the plastic, and then, you know, it might not be the greatest thing, but they're building, and they also, you know, they use it for decks and things like that. So they're making building materials out of the recycled plastic for third world countries, which actually does last a long time. They don't know how long yet, but it doesn't show any signs of decay, these decks, you know. And I worked in the deck cleaning industry, and they just had started that maybe, God, I guess that was like probably 15 or 20 years ago. I started to see some of these recycled material desks. I see them at parks where they make benches, and they're probably going to last quite some time. So I don't know the environmental impact on that. I mean, we could go in circles all day, but I know that everyone's trying to get on board, and people are becoming more and more conscious about the effect they're having in the environment as far as like their diet, the materials they're using. But I think what you mentioned earlier about the chemicals, I'd like to just say it a little bit, maybe you can tell us, but I mean, my understanding is that you were in the hair care industry and you were watching people get cancer from the chemicals in the hair care products. And so that's what kind of initially got you into creating these chemical-free products. And, you know, for what I see is like, okay, you've got meat, and you've got vegetables, you've got fruit, you've got nuts, and you've got all kinds of different whole foods that have been traditionally used for forever. But 95% of the food, you know, is not only processed, that's one thing, but then chemicalized. And we're talking about the chemicals in medicine. We're talking about the chemicals in beauty products. We're talking about the chemicals in food. We're talking about the chemicals in industry. And what I see, you know, we're all arguing about diets and foods and things like that, which is more of a matter of opinion. And we're overlooking some of the basic underlying essential reasons why people are sick. And I think that it's because, you know, there's so many chemicals in so many different forms coming at us in so many different directions, that my underlying, you know, issue or task is to help people to understand where these chemicals are coming from, how they can avoid them, and then if they have many of these diseases, autoimmune, allergies, lymphatic stagnation, thyroid problems, pancreas, and everything else that get blocked up from these chemicals that act as sort of endocrine disruptors or cellular, you know, disruptors from, you know, having the body be able to function. It shuts down certain functions because these chemicals are not recognized. They get stored, and they block up energy flow and electrical flow, and they block up the ability of the cells to function optimally. And I feel like many of the diseases that we see today, neurological and endocrinological, as well as, you know, the digestive disorders, are, in my opinion, attributed to the exposure to chemicals in the type of, with the medicines, with the pesticides, and with the beauty products and the food. And so we're swimming in this chemical sea. And for me, one of the greatest things that's ever happened in my life is to become aware of chemicals in the sense of smoking them, drinking them, just snorting them, you know, popping them as pills, injecting them, and eating them, and looking at all, and fluoride in the water, you know, and learning how to go like, how can I avoid as much of these inimical substances as possible? And if we do get exposure, how can I help people to detoxify, which is a very challenging process, to recirculate those chemicals back through the bloodstream. So people are jumping from diet to diet and pill to pill and all this stuff, instead of going through the sludgy, slimy detox of chemicals coming out. For example, Paul Bragg, you know, after many years of fasting and raw food, finally a big giant chunk of mercury came out many years into his health protocol. And finally one day during a fast, he pooped out this huge chunk of thimerosal, mercury. And he felt like, oh my God, the final complete healing. Arnold Ehret, same thing. Some of those great men that did the process of regeneration and detoxification, which you hear so little of these days because of the challenge, the discipline that's required, and moving through that junk on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels is not easy. So health is simple, and the path of detoxification is simple by avoiding the chemicals and detoxifying them, but it is not easy. And I realize that it's getting more and more difficult as time passes because there's becoming more and more chemicals, more and more deception, and more of these, passing these laws that are forcing us to be exposed to chemicals, which is totally insane, but yet we're so chemically dumbed down. And so watching the wagging of the dog while the tail gets away with whatever it wants. So that's why it's important just to keep waking up and coming back to less is more. Like sleep, fresh air, water, pure, plain, basic, unstimulating foods. It's like thousands of years of culture. Well, what about pizza and pasta and all these traditional cultural foods? But the wise one who wants to have a clear head and sleep well at night is going to eat simple, plain, basic food that has not been sprayed or altered. And that's my message. That's why the God put me here, for that little tiny thing to say, hey, it's better to leave all that crap in the middle of the grocery store, the bag, boxes, and cans built for profit, and go to the farmer's market and, learn how to take those fruits, vegetables, herbs, nuts, and seeds, and your grass-raised animal products, and eat them as simply and plainly as you can. So not to use food as a drug or a stimulant, but a tool to fuel your life. Because opinion is that at this time, which is more of a new revelation more than anything, is the food is consciousness. And so it's not about good, bad, or right or wrong. It's just about us learning how to, number one, avoid the stuff that's killing us, which in my estimation is about 95% of the stuff is lifeless, processed, dead, slimy junk. I'm not as much against cooked food as I've made it seem over the years, but I just wanted to really emphasize the fact that for a better part of the year and as much as possible, human beings should pluck and eat. And there's a million reasons why I would recommend that. But then again, I understand all the different variables and all the different, latitude and all the different climates and things like that, and levels of awareness, but just the consciousness of the food. And then we use food to support what it is we're trying to create or be or do. So if you want to have, if you want the warriors to go to war, it's probably better if your soldiers are not fruitarians, because they're just going to be like, well, the hell with this, you got to feed them the stuff that's going to pump them up and get them out there and get them aggressive. Same thing with just the warriors and the CEOs and the movers and the shakers. And then, it's going to be different for someone who's a meditator, a monk, for example, just when you just want to meditate, well, just fruit, plain fruit, and you sit. But that guy, you don't put a gun in his hand. He's been sitting there meditating for 4 years. Now you're going to hand him a gun. He's going to be like, if I shoot that guy, I'm shooting myself. So you need to use food and consciousness and all the different types of food to adjust your life to what you need it to be. So you don't want to be too high,
No. So Dan, you're spot on. And as you're talking, I'm really being grateful because you're bringing up a lot of issues that we need to really look at directly as facts. And detox is really critical. So I'm looking at you And I'm saying, my God, how old is Dan? And look at his skin. You have the skin of a 17-year-old young boy. You have
Is that
no
right?
lines in your forehead. I mean, your skin is like so youthful. So you're walking your walk and talking your talk. And detox is what you've been doing for decades. And that's what people really need to look at. And I teach little by little. You just don't go on a raw diet from your eating meat and cheese and pizzas, you know, and 100% tomorrow. But if you do it little by little, you basically will start allowing the body to start detoxing. And what you're bringing up is really critical, because what's happening is that skin care, hair care, our oral care, dental care, cosmetics, all of these bleaches and dyes, this is really food that people don't say, oh, this is not food, I just wash it off, or, you know, it's just whatever. No, you're ingesting that into your system. It's going down into the bloodstream. It's being absorbed. It's going down into the organs day in and day out, year in and year out. And after a period of time, it's going to basically just settle down and store, because you don't have enough 24-hour enough digestive system. It's going to start storing into our lungs, into our kidneys, into our organs, and that's dis-ease. That's where all the disease is coming from. There's thousands of different names, thousands of different types of cancers, but they all come down to toxicity. We're just toxic, for God's sakes. So if we're doing what you're talking about, Dan, is clearing it out, you know, looking at our diet, looking at what we're doing, where are we living, how are we breathing, what are we drinking. Little by little, we also have to look at detox. And you asked me in the beginning, like, how did I start off? Well, I was doing Jackie Kennedy Onassis. She was my hair client back in the 1960s. And I've written books about this, Awaken Your Roots. It's a free book on MorroccoMethod.com. You just go into MorroccoMethod.com, look it up. It's audio and whatever you want to use it. You can get it in the book form, audio form. Awaken Our Roots. And when I was basically working in the most famous, prestigious hair salon in the world in the 1960s, it came like a lightning bolt when I realized that I was healthy, I was clean, I was eating properly, and I was working in the most toxic atmosphere of the most famous and wealthiest salon in the world. And all these people looked fabulous on the outside, but on the inside, they were being poisoned, toxic, from all the bleaches, all the dyes, all the permanents, all these horrible hairsprays, which is paint and lacquer. So when I came to that, I stepped out of that world into the health and wellness world, and basically started working on creating the 5 elements, and then how can I help and assist and educate everyone or anyone who's interested into learning, first of all, how to detox. And I will tell everyone that at 76 years of age, I am detoxing now at a higher level than I've ever done in my entire life. And it's day by day. I don't have to stop and say, I'm going to do a liver cleanse. I don't have to stop and say, I'm going to do, you know, a lung cleanse. I don't have to do any blood tests. I just had I had to get insurance last year. And so I bought a building, a very expensive manufacturing plant, and I had to go through this huge physical test, and by a very big insurance company. And I came out at 23 years of age. That's what they rated me, 23 years of age, and I was then 75. So what I'm alluding to is that when you eat properly, and when you think properly, and when you breathe properly, and when you drink properly, you're going to allow not only your physical body, but your emotional body and your mental body and your spiritual body to detox. And this is a 24/7. What Dan is telling you is fact. It is the truth, and there's no other truth. When you're little by little, we're not telling you to do this all at once, but you start doing it today and tomorrow and next week, little by little, you'll just slowly, like I tell everybody, there's nothing more important to me than my energy. Nothing. There's no food, there's no booze, there's no drugs, there's no sex, there's no outside social life. My energy level is the most important, powerful thing that I live with 24/7. And I range between an 8.5 to a 13. So when I'm normal, I'm pouncing around at a 10, on a 1 to 10. And when I'm in the flow, baby, I'm hitting 13. And my clarity and balance is right on. So detoxing is something that we need to do 24/7. It's not something you sort of put aside, and then the rest of the time you can eat Twinkies and drink diet beer or Coca-Cola or Domino pizza, for God's sake. This is all toxic. But if you're doing that, then slowly, by little, and I'm advising everyone, support your local farmers. They're supporting us, for God's sake. Not the big mega, what do you call it, Monsanto? Bayer bought Monsanto. That's another conversation we'll get into later. But the whole thing is, if you support your local farmers, not Costco, that's really horrible. You go down to the local farmers market. If you're in the winter and there's no farmers market, then you need to find out who's producing anything and support them. Everything I eat right now is only from my local environment. I buy nothing from the stores, nothing. I go to the farmer's market. We have 16 a week here in Central California, talking about living in paradise. That's by choice. And everything that they have, whatever they're producing, that's all I eat. I don't go there and say, oh, I want to buy peas. They say peas is out of season. There are no peas. Or I want to buy watermelon. Oh, why? Watermelon's in season. Here's one. But my energy level is, I attribute it, starting with my physical food and the local farmers who I totally support, that support me and my health. Then we go into my associations, my business reactions, all my employees. I don't do business with any major stressful, no one. If they're just in harmony, we basically are in flow with them. If they're not, I don't want to be bothered. So money is important, but it's not everything. And our health is the most important thing on every level. Every level, we need to be healthy in what we're eating, what we're drinking, and what we're thinking, and how we're feeling. That's all food. We need to bring that to fruition. So our health is our wealth. And I'm glad you're bringing that up, Dan, because you're so insightful. Look how healthy you are. Basically, you are walking your walk. Congratulations.
I am truly blessed. And it's, and it's like, and as everyone's going to know in the future, it's far beyond the physical. It's just the physical. You focus on that long enough, seeking the truth about the physical. Like you said, it seems crazy sometimes. You're detoxing all the time, but why am I still on this process of regeneration? And most people don't know that I had major vaccine damage. So from the very beginning of my life, my brain got damaged. And I've been working with the detoxification and regeneration of my brain, nervous system. Thankfully, other people get hit. Their endocrine glands get hit. The diabetes is a part of that. And so many other, the autoimmune diseases from the chemicals that get trapped in the tissues. And so that's the reason why I continue to do this, because I've had issues my whole life. And I have suffered and I have been in pain. And so, and lately it's come as a revelation that pain and that suffering, which we all go through, but to varying degrees. And who's the more blessed one? The one who has very little suffering and pain, which drives them to seek deeper truth, or the one who suffers gravely and is forced to find the highest truth and forced to apply the knowledge instead of, oh, I know about this stuff. Let's go down to the coffee shop and talk about it. I don't give a crap about that. I want to be it. I'm going to do it. So to this very day, 20 years on the living foods path and 11 years on the YouTube, I am, I haven't made a video in a couple months. I'm behind the scenes. I am invigorated. And I'm not saying I know everything about diet. I'm saying I just know what I've had to do to regenerate my brain to the best of my ability, because I think that what they did, my parents didn't know any better. There's some sinister activity going on the planet, and it's just up to me and the lightless light and the divine knowledge and the divine intelligence to guide me to how I can improve the quality of my life. And some of these things that we've experienced, all of us. I mean, we're all going to die, you know. We're all going to get old and we're all going to die, and we've all been damaged in many different ways, whether emotionally or physically, or whether it's we're just pigs on our diet, or we just use food as a drug, or we got into drugs when we were young, or we drank ourselves to death because our ex-wife left us, or whatever. Now we've got, we drank like a fish for 5 years, and now we're kind of waking up and going, God, I'm going to die if I don't change it. Well, you've done a lot of damage. Now you have to pay your debt. And for whatever reason, we have these, we're just little babies, and we get that kind of, we have that kind of experience. My brother died from it. My nephew died from it, from these inoculations. So thankfully, I'm still alive. I've just had a lifetime of challenges. They labeled me ADD, gave me drugs. I became a drug addict, yada, yada, yada. And now I've worked my way. So, I'm just an average Joe working my way out of, here's the world's insanity, but there is another better path that may be narrow. It may be the hard path. It may take discipline, focus, determination, and most of all, an earnestness. But I have goosebumps because I'm so grateful to God, as hard as it's been to be on social media, because I'm not the poster child for anything. And I'm a very sensitive person about, this is my life, and I've worked my ass off, and I'm finding out things that no one knows about. Because when you go to get mercury, aluminum, and fluoride out of your brain that got in there past the protective barriers because of the emulsifiers that are used in the medications and in these, medical procedures that are injected into everyone across the board, those chemicals get past those safety barriers that your brain wants to be protected. Your gut lining wants to protect you from being exposed to those chemicals and those emulsifying agents, the polysorbates and emulsifiers in food. But the polysorbates, they allow those chemicals to get where they're not supposed to get. And once they get in there, since these chemicals are so new, we have no biological mechanisms. So there's no enzymes in the history of the liver, and there's no microbes either that can transmit these chemicals into innocuous substances. And so now we're finding out that, these chemicals are getting trapped inside of people, and it's causing allergies and asthma and autoimmune diseases and Alzheimer's. And that's only just the A's, and the list goes down the list. And so now we're working on the impossible. I'm working with the greatest healers in the world, which have come to me through grace. And when you combine this diet that I've been on and this lifestyle of what I call sadhana, which is daily meditation, which has been one of the best things I've ever done for my brain, is daily deep meditation. And sometimes it's up to 2 to 4 to 6 hours a day of meditation that has completely transformed my ability to sit still, coming from a child labeled ADD, given the drugs that are actually, destroy creativity and numb the brain. Then all those acids and inflammation, you reach out for things like cannabis and alcohol and food, which food is a palliative for aluminum poisoning. You'll find that across the board, that all of us with aluminum, when we eat aluminum in the brain, which is everywhere because it's raining down us from the sky, but mostly those, back from way back when they've been using aluminium as a preservative and as an adjuvant to overexcite. The problem is the aluminum gets stuck and it overexcites, and that's what they label as ADD, ADHD, hyperactivity, and autoimmune diseases. And now it's getting worse and worse because the toxins are getting so high, the threshold is getting so high. That's what got me into the understanding of detoxification, the avoidance of chemicals, and that's why we have such a great relationship and where that lines up, and why I appreciate Morrocco method so much, because you can recognize everything that's in there, and you're like, okay, if there's even a few things that I don't recognize and the word is too long, I'm like, that's too many hexaboxyl. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the hell that is. Is that a molecule that's sinking into my brain and inhibiting some kind of endocrine gland, or disrupting my hormones? Is it going into my brain and causing inflammation? So I'm going to use Morrocco method stuff because I am a princess and I love self-care. And it was the lack of love, which my parents didn't have. When you have more love, you do detoxify those chemicals more when you're younger. That's why some people have, harsher reactions than others. And I didn't have that. Love is the detoxification chemical. And it's funny that I even bring that up because just recently I realized that I still have yet to learn to completely love and honor myself because of those stuck patterns in childhood of two parents and generations. In fact, I did an 18-day water fast a month ago, and I was going to go for 40, which I've done before, but I got to the place of my ancestors screaming in pain, and it was right here in my chest, and I couldn't go on anymore. I was a little bit upset about that because I love to accomplish my goals, but I couldn't handle it. And then the last month and a half, I've been kind of sick in a sense of my heart. And so you're kind of catching me just coming out of that because it was just, I had these revelations and it pulled me so low that I was just so low and I got low. And finally, it just got so low that I realized that you have to love yourself, dude, and get the love from yourself that you never got and get over that deep conditioning. When you're that young child, you're getting conditioned. Those patterns don't just go away right away. And so this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about real healing. And so we're talking about the physical, the emotional, the mental, and utilizing the spiritual divine intelligence to be guided into what you can do. And there are miracles on this planet because I have a friend who's a master healer who specializes in the detoxification and the eradication of these chemical plaques or these acid crystals. He calls them death crystals, calcareous deposits, which are associated with a great many elements in society that the body can't water solubly release. And so this, even though the cells are reproducing, many of these scar tissue, acid crystal, calcareous deposits, or indurated tissues, they're not getting oxygen to those tissues, and they're irritating nerves, they're blocking blood flow, they're blocking lymph flow. And so thankfully, there's 8 people on the planet that does this kind of work, to physically manipulate and break up these deposits. And one of them is my best friend. And so it's the slow, steady process. And I think anyone who knows me can see that I'm in a totally different space than I was a few months ago, than I was a year ago, than I was 3 years ago. So I'm making progress in ways that necessarily isn't being talked about in the dietary genres and things like that, because this is the deepest levels of healing and it's happening on every level. And so I'm earnest, I'm devoted, not only to the regeneration of my physical organism as hey, I got to do something while I'm here on earth, while I'm utilizing this body as a gift to humanity to heal myself, and then hopefully with the grace of God, design programs, share information on how other people can dissolve their sclerotic indurated calcareous deposits, which create nervous system conditions, autoimmune diseases, pain, stiffness in the joints, etc. And so for those who want to get free and actually do the work, and it is not easy, and it can be painful, and can be physically painful, but also what you'll see is that as these deposits, whether you're doing simple detoxification of going just from the standard food to the raw food, you're going to experience painful emotions. And that's what stops most people. You're going to lose a little weight. You're going to lose a little muscle mass. You're going to feel a little weak. You're going to be a little shaky. You're going to get lightheaded. You're going to feel all the toxins in your bloodstream. People don't want to feel unpleasantness for a day, a 2 or 3 or a week or a month to get to the other side of the river, which is the peace and love and ease of a body that's well functioning, even in a society such as this. The laws are still here. They're still working for us. And if we're smart, we can utilize those laws, and we can, just like you, Anthony. I mean, I hope I'm as sharp and as centered as you are, because a lot of 76-year-olds are not doing so well. In fact, most people are dead by 76, and you're still running a great company, doing good for society. And I can tell you're having fun, and your balanced attitude is a very awesome thing. Your intelligence and your dedication to continuing to make the planet better, even at your age, like we talked about yesterday. By the time people get to be your age, they're like, they're just like eating crackers and saltines and God knows what. I mean, they're not going to change nothing. They're set in like stone. And you're maintaining the 5 elements in you to stay fluid, stay flexible, and to continue to stay youthful and grow. And I'm sure you're still enjoying life.
I love life. Life to me is the whole passion of why we're here. And every day I need a reason to get out of bed. And I have many reasons to get me out of bed early. And there are 7 days a week. I have all these projects going on. I teach Qigong. I teach yoga. I basically have employees that are supportive for me, and I support them. But the whole health deal is no matter what age we are, we need to get healthier. And that's what I feel today, that I'm basically experiencing more health than I ever have at 76, because I have all this wisdom. It's all coming from experience. And that's what I want to share with everybody, is that we really need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. There's a reason why we're here. And detox, like you're saying, Dan, is critical. Detox is a whole key to our physical, emotional, mental, and energy levels. Everything needs that detox. Every level needs to detox 24/7. And it's not something where you have to go place yourself in a box for a month. You can do that. That's really high work. But normally in our day-to-day routine, 7 days a week, we have to just be very mindful and very careful of what we're doing, who we're hanging around with, and what we're accepting into our impressions. And that's little by little. And that affects the whole of ourselves. And we have to understand that we're affecting everyone around us. So everything that I'm doing, everything that Dan's doing, everything that you're doing is affecting shoulder to shoulder. And we need to be brothers, shoulder to shoulder. We need to be sisters, shoulder to shoulder. We need to support humanity with common sense and with truth. Truth is truth. There's no other truth. And just facts. If it's a fact, it's a fact. That's what is. And we need to solve those problems, starting with ourselves. We need to be healthy so we can think clearly, we can feel clearly, we can have a relationship clearly. We want to be shoulder to shoulder with everyone, and to basically be clear and balanced. And I'm glad you brought that up. So our ancestors basically, obviously, are still empowered. They're still here. And I worked with Robert Bly for 20 years in the men's communities. And when we did work with thousands of men, what we would do, we would call in our ancestors. They would come. They come. They're there. And they're waiting for us to do this work. When we do this work, which is this, the mystery and the magic, our ancestors come, because we're not only releasing and freeing ourselves like Dan's talking about, we're releasing our parents, our grandparents, our great-great-great-grandparents. This work is on all levels, beyond our wildest dreams. And so excited to be alive and to be able to have the privilege of working on ourselves at a capacity at every level, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally, psychically, spiritually. It's very exciting. And I'll finish off with, in Asia, if you look in Asia in their dictionary, you will never find a word that exists that says retire. There's no such word. It doesn't exist in their culture. and it doesn't exist in their entire civilizations. And I'm sure the American Indians and all the tribal people never had such a ridiculous word. Retire to what? What are you retiring to? All we can do is grow more, live more. And with our experience, we want to share more with the youth, for God's sake. That's what I want to bring as closure. We need to empower our youth, not destroy them, not make them weak. What I'm seeing today is the youth is so weak, it is really sad. They need to be empowered by us, not looking at us eating Twinkie donuts and drinking garbage. Ugh, poison, chemicals. You know, we need to be an example to the younger, to the youth. What's coming up, they're going to be taking over this planet. The deer, the dolphins, the whales, the insects, the birds cannot defend themselves from us. Humanity, humankind really can do things that nothing else can do. We can either make this planet really healthy and beautiful, or we can destroy it. And we're destroying all life on Earth. So let's start detoxing ourselves at every level, everyone around us, and let's start as close as we can and stay there. We don't need to go all the way to Russia to change them. We don't need to go to Iran to change them. We need to change ourselves at home, right here, and to empower our youth. Dan, the message is health, health at all levels. Thank you.
Anthony, I just want to say one more thing. For those of you who made it this far in the interview, thank you for taking your precious time. I hope that you've been empowered. I've been off the game board for a while, but I'm on my way back. Just went in for a little while, but I'm just that kind of guy. I need that time to regenerate and rejuvenate and get to another level of information, knowledge, and experience. That being said, I want to encourage everyone who's interested in finding out more about the Morrocco method, hair care. There's a ton of free information over there on the website. So go learn about your hair and some things you've never even heard about. You'll be like, oh my God, didn't know my hair was such a complicated, intricate thing. You can learn a lot, and it's all free information over there on the website. And then if you find that you want to, I will tell you, the elixirs work. The Morrocco method hair care works. The shampoo bar and the conditioner bar is good for everything. I use it for shaving. And it's absolutely amazing. So there's a million, and I love the conditioning bar. I actually leave a little bit in. I don't rinse it all the way out, and I use it as a little bit as a styling. Nice. Also. You know, so Morocco method is just epic for everything. And it's like medicine. And it's consciousness is what it is. It's Anthony's consciousness, and it's chemical-free self-care. And self-care is you loving you. So go over there and get some of that free information and get inspired. If you want to get any of the Morrocco method stuff, just use the Dan the Man code and save 15% off until this sale runs out. I want to thank you guys for doing that for my viewers. And I'm going to step up my game a little bit on the Morrocco method and send more people your guys' way, because you've just re-inspired me, Anthony. And, yeah, I've just been, I never wanted to be a huge internet marketer. It was never really my thing, but there are just some companies and people that I really believe in, and I want to connect my people to you. And then you guys are a blessing to me, of course, because then I keep a roof over my head and clothes on my body when I decide to wear them. And then everybody wins, you know, we just keep going up and up, and we're supporting conscious, companies by being conscious consumers. And then the consumers drive the demand for you guys to even continue your process of changing over and doing the best you can within a reasonable expectations. And I appreciate you guys doing that. I'm gonna order me another round of the 5 elements, because I just love that stuff. And I really appreciate the reflection, Anthony, of you're reflecting back to me my own growth that's taken place through all this challenging time, you know, and I really appreciate that. I see my own, clarity and my own love for humanity and my desire to help and to just share knowledge it to the best of my ability without judging, criticizing, or putting anyone down. We're all in this mess together, and we're all going to be the solution as well. So I'm here. At the end of the day, it's about love, divine intelligence, and surrendering into the Most High. And out of that space, all the right decisions are made without effort. So thank you very much, everyone, and Anthony.